2024 has been a really odd year for new releases for me. I've just not been able to sink my teeth into games and really play a lot to completion. Of the 11 games I've beaten this year, only one of them is a game that actually came out this year, and that's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the remaining games coming out in 2024 that I'm most excited about. I have 5 games in particular, but I also want to talk about 5 additional games that have already come out this year that I want to go back to or pick up and hopefully play before the end of the year as well. So what are some of the games in 2024 that you've enjoyed most at this point, but even more so as we look down for the remainder of the year, what are some additional games you are also getting excited about? I'd love to hear from you down in the comments section below. Now, as we get started here, it's worth noting that I've not formally ranked this list, but we are going to kick it off with the game I am most anticipating for the remainder of the year, and that is Astrobot. I absolutely adored Astro's Playroom as a pack-in game for the PlayStation 5. I thought it was an incredible celebration of PlayStation's history and one of the best ways you could show off the capabilities of the DualSense controller. I literally bought a VR headset used so that I could play Astro's Rescue Mission, which is also fantastic and a great showcase for the VR technology. But I was really hoping, especially with the release of VR2 and Sony, surprisingly enough, or maybe not so surprising at all, showing it much love, I was hoping that the next Astrobot game that was rumored wasn't going to be VR2 exclusive. And thankfully it is not. It is coming September 6th this fall, and it looks incredible. From what I've read, there are 80 levels in the game where you're visiting various planets in almost like a Mario Galaxy type of way. So you're going to get all kinds of different environments that you're going to get to explore. And apparently there are also 15 new abilities for Astrobot that make use of the DualSense controller in new and unique ways. So I am so excited about that because while we've seen a number of PlayStation games kind of make use of the DualSense, like Horizon Forbidden West, when you pull back your bow, you feel the resistance, and certainly in Spider-Man when you're swinging around the city. But I feel like not many have taken full use of the technology, so I cannot wait to see what Astrobot does with the controller. And I also hope there is just a heaping ton of nods to PlayStation's history in the same way there was in Astro's Playroom. And it goes without saying, if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, I love 3D platformers, and nowadays it's rare that we're getting many of them. Tinykin being a recent example that is one of the best 3D platformers I've played, and I cannot even begin to tell you how long. If you've not played Tinykin, please do so. But from everything I've seen to this point, Astrobot really seems to be just a traditional 3D platformer. Go into these levels, collect a bunch of stuff, and get to see everything that Astro typically does. He's just so freaking adorable, and I'm glad that he's almost become a mascot for PlayStation. So Astrobot, is it something you're looking forward to? I know it is my most anticipated game for the remainder of 2024. Next up, now I'm wearing my Happy Console Gamer t-shirt for a reason, because Johnny got me into the Dragon Quest series many years ago when I first started my YouTube channel. Playing all the Dragon Quest DS games while I was in college was an incredible experience, and I'm sure it's going to be just as good when we get Dragon Quest III here later this fall. The 2.5D HD remake, kind of borrowing that Octopath Traveler style. I'm just so excited that that kind of style is being emulated in so many other games, and I feel like there are a tremendous number of JRPGs of the past that could really benefit from that type of HD remake style. So hopefully we see more of that. Now that game is actually coming a week after my daughter's expected to arrive, so we'll see if I can sneak that game in here in the fall. But if there's one new release around the time my daughter is born, I think that is probably the game that I'm going to try and play between diaper changes and while I'm incredibly sleep deprived. But I think that'll be a really great game to kind of complement that early parenting experience. Dragon Quest III HD 2.5D remake, cannot wait for it. It's coming, I believe, November 15th. Next up, we have another game coming November 15th, and I highly doubt I'll have the time to play this given that my daughter is on the way, and that is Assassin's Creed Shadows If you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you know that I had a resurgence of love for the Assassin's Creed series just a few short years ago when I played Valhalla, and ever since I've played just about every mainline Assassin's Creed game there is. And when I was playing stuff like Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and 3 back in the day, I always imagined what are the 2 locations that I would love for Assassin's Creed to go eventually. One of them was ancient Egypt, and the other was feudal Japan. Now, we've already gone to ancient Egypt in Origins, and as many of you might know, that is my favorite Assassin's Creed game, one of my favorite games on PlayStation 4. And this fall, we are going to be able to explore feudal Japan in Assassin's Creed fashion, kind of playing as these 2 characters. I'm really interested to see how they're gonna kind of balance those 2 different playstyles. One kind of seems to be much more of a heavy character, using these giant weapons, and the other one kind of seems to be more swift, quick, navigating these environments in a much more kinetic fashion. I'm looking forward to see how they have that duality of gameplay, if you get to select one person versus the next, or if it's going to be kind of a Miles and Peter situation like Spider-Man 2, where certain missions are kind of designed around that particular character. Really looking forward to that, and kind of the additional ways you can sneak around the environments from the gameplay I've seen to this point look outstanding, and it doesn't really feel like it's that annual installment of Assassin's Creed. I love that they're actually taking their time with these games now and having several years of development behind them to really kind of innovate and move the series forward in unique ways, and that certainly seems to be the case with Shadows. Again, November 15th, probably not going to be able to play it this year, but are you looking forward to Assassin's Creed Shadows? Maybe it's your chance to jump back in the series if you haven't played it in a while. Be curious to hear down in the comments below if Shadows is something you're looking forward to playing. Next up, we have Obsidian's open world RPG. When this was teased years ago at an Xbox showcase, I knew immediately this is the Elder Scrolls-like experience that I need, because we're probably not going to get Elder Scrolls 6 for another 10 years at this point. It's going to be a while. So Obsidian kind of creating this fantasy, medieval type RPG in the first person is definitely my type of game. I don't think I can take another anniversary edition of Skyrim at this point. I've played that game 8 times. I bought 9 copies of it, so I'm very much looking forward to Avowed. I've stayed away from some of the gameplay because I don't want to spoil too much. I'd like to go into the experience as fresh as possible, but what I was very impressed with is the cover art. If that game does remain exclusive to Xbox, I know it's a day-and-date Game Pass title, which is where I'll be playing it. I have to pick up a physical copy of that because that artwork alone is just gorgeous. Really like the style of it, but cannot wait to play Obsidian's open world RPG. Yeah, it's just, again, in the absence of an Elder Scrolls, that's going to be the fix I need. Now, lastly, of the games I'm most looking forward to for the remainder of the year is a game I was really shocked to see revealed a couple of years back at an Xbox showcase, and that is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Developed by Machine Games, I cannot even begin to tell you how disappointed I am that we've not seen the 3rd and final installment in the trilogy of Machine Games' Wolfenstein series. New Order, New Colossus, and New something. I was very much anticipating that 3rd and final game, but I don't think New Colossus sold as well as they wanted, so they've kind of shifted a little bit, put that 3rd and final game on the back burner, I have to imagine, and instead we're getting Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and this looks phenomenal. I was really surprised when it was revealed that it wasn't going to be in the 3rd person, but they were sticking with what Machine Games has been good at recently and creating this first-person shooter adventure type game. Although there are certain, situations where Indy, when he's using the whip to kind of navigate certain environments or climbing walls and stuff like that, it kind of shifts to the 3rd person. So looking forward to seeing how they balance those 2 different type of gameplay styles, and especially since playing games like Tomb Raider and Uncharted, where it is in the 3rd person, and you can kind of see the environments when you're trying to solve a particular puzzle. Curious to see how that works in the first person, but at the most recent Xbox showcase, when they gave a kind of an extended demo of the game, the humor Troy Baker voicing Indy, and really all of the component pieces really seem to be capturing the magic of Indiana Jones really well. The good Indiana Jones movies, all right? We don't talk about that movie with Shia LaBeouf a whole lot. They can't all be special, I suppose, but The Great Circle really seems to be hitting all of the right notes and really capturing what makes Indiana Jones special. And again, I think Machine Games has a great pedigree behind them when it comes to creating first-person experiences. This seems to be no different. We don't have a date on this one yet, so I'm curious to see if this still makes 2024, but if it does, it's a day-and-date Game Pass title, so I cannot wait to play it. Now, to conclude this video, I also want to include 5 games that have already come out this year that I've not yet played, but I want to eventually pick up. And the first of which is Stellar Blade, a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and reminds me a lot of the PS2 era. Just a third-person character action game. The game caught a lot of weird flack when it originally released for reasons I won't be going into in this video, but let me just say that this looks like a Bayonetta type action game that I am all about. And for a number of people that I really respect their opinions when it comes to games, they've really enjoyed it. So I'm very much looking forward to hopefully snagging this on a GameFly sale. I don't know if I want to pay that full price for it, but if I can get a copy for $30, that seems like the perfect buying in price for me. Next up is a sequel to what's kind of become almost a cult classic in Dragon's Dogma, and that is Dragon's Dogma 2. I really enjoyed the 20 to 25 hours I played of Dark Arisen, and kind of this pawn-like system that you have in the game where you can kind of recruit certain characters to kind of tailor around your experience and make sure that if you have a certain character build, you want to have other types of mages or supporting characters to kind of complement your experience as you're navigating this giant open world. And the combat really, when I played Dark Arisen anyways, reminded me a bit of Monster Hunter, and how these characters oftentimes didn't have health bars that you were fighting, and they were these giant creatures that you were trying to take down. You could climb them in almost like Shadow of the Colossus-like fashion. It was just an excellent time. A series that pulls no punches. It's not like most of the open world games today that kind of hold your hand and you know exactly where to go in the world. You have fast travel at your disposal. Dragon's Dogma and the sequel seem to really kind of make things a little bit more challenging in that regard. And so I'm looking forward to giving it a try. I think it caught quite a bit of criticism early on for a lot of microtransactions, but when I've actually double-clicked into those stories, it sounds like they're not entirely necessary to be able to enjoy the experience. But similar to Avowed, I am always looking for more open-world, medieval fantasy-type RPGs, and Dragon's Dogma 2 reviewed incredibly well and seems to be just another fantastic game and hopefully continues to be a long-running series for Capcom. So another one I'm hoping to find for maybe the $30 to $40 price tag as opposed to paying full price. But for anyone that's played Dragon's Dogma 2 to this point, what do you think? I'm very much looking forward to hopefully picking it up later in the year. Now, this next game might surprise some people because I've never really been a big fighting game fan. I've never really gotten into Marvel vs. Capcom, the Street Fighters of the world. But when I got my PlayStation 2, a friend of mine gave me his copy of Tekken Tag Tournament. And I fell in love with that game and its really bizarre cast of characters, like Roger the Kangaroo, Yoshimitsu was amazing. I'm pretty sure there was like a tree that reminded me of like Sudowoodo, the Pokemon. My favorite was Eddie. Eddie was like my main, if you will, when it came to Tekken Tag Tournament. But since then, I've never really played many of the Tekken games. And earlier this year, Tekken 8 released to incredibly good reception. And for a game that has 8 mainline games in the series, it sounds like 8 is one of the best. And so if I sound like a broken record, if I can pick up a copy for a little bit cheaper than retail, I definitely will, because that's a game that would be fun for kind of short pick up and play bursts, as opposed to some of the games that I've talked about in this video so far, like Avowed and Dragon's Dogma 2, that take probably 100 plus hours to beat. Tekken 8 would be a great game to experiment with the roster of characters, play through the story, which I hear is also pretty great, and just get back to a decent fighting game, because other than Smash Brothers, I haven't played one in a long time. Another game I actually started because I believe it was a day-and-date PlayStation Plus title, and that is Tales of Kyncera Zao, I believe is how you pronounce it. And it was actually created, and the main protagonist is voiced by Bayek, who was the main protagonist in Assassin's Creed Origins. So that voice actor, I think, created his own indie studio and voiced the main character for this game. And the story is actually about this character kind of losing his father in the same way that this main guy who created this studio also lost his father, and kind of going through that grieving process. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they depict that story in the game, but the game plays like a gated exploration Metroidvania type of game, and I don't think it's too terribly long, probably about 8 hours to roll credits. And with it being a day-and-date PlayStation Plus title, I played it for about an hour and really enjoyed what they were kind of going for. So another one I'm looking forward to going back and playing. But if you've played Tales of Kyncera, or Kyncera, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but if you played it, let me know what you think. And last but certainly not least, a game I think I remember seeing in a Nintendo Direct, and that's Another Crab's Treasure. This is a weird Souls-like where, as the name might imply, you play as this little crab. I've put about an hour into this, and what immediately struck me was the writing. It is incredibly witty, riddled with all kinds of puns, and it really seems to be a decent take on the Souls-like formula, but there's also plenty of accessibility options to make the game much more playable if you're not into the difficult learning curve of the Souls games. And my brother-in-law actually rolled credits in this game and got all the achievements. He beat it in like a week, and he said navigating the environments really felt like a 3D platformer. Almost, he even compared it to one of my favorite platformers of recent memory, Tinykin. I mentioned it earlier in the video. So I'm very much looking forward to going back and playing this one. It's on Game Pass, so if you have an interest in this type of game and it sounds interesting to you, definitely give it a try. It's on Game Pass currently, and one I hope to be able to go back to and play to completion before the end of the year. All right, everyone, those are the 5 games that I'm most looking forward to for the remainder of the year, and then 5 additional games that have already come out that I'm looking forward to either going back to or picking up and playing for the first time. But let me know down below, what are some additional games that you're looking forward to picking up and playing for the remainder of the year, or maybe some games that you've also picked up and are kind of sitting on the shelf that you cannot wait to go back to, maybe play for the first time as well. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.